Well, let's introduce our very special guest for this week's episode of the Power Test. We are delighted to welcome Rob Ford. Rob is Professor of Political Science at the University of Manchester. He's also author of the book Sex, Lies and the Ballot Box, and he was part of the BBC team analysing those very exciting local election results. Rob, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I want to ask a bit about what it's like being part of the BBC team. Like, what are you all doing? Are you sort of locked in a room with John Curtice where he's sort of bossing you around? What's the how does it all work for those of us who don't
People would pay good
to...
money for that, by the way, to be locked in a room with John Curtice to have him bought. That's like quite a specialist thing people would pay money for.
But what happens in the room where all of this analysis is going on?
Well, we kind of are locked in a room with John Curtice and a bunch of other very talented BBC journalists. It's more like a floor, actually, of New Broadcasting House than a room. We have one corner of it. There's a team of about 5 or 6 of us who are the sort of imported cephalological nerds. And we do 3 days of rehearsals as well. So local elections feel, if you think 3 days is a festival of local election counting, imagine adding another 3 days onto that. So it feels quite strange by the time the actual results come in, because it's like the 4th time around for us, because we're testing all the systems and all the broadcast stuff has to work and everything like that. And we also spend months, well, not months, but chunks of time over the course of several months ahead of time, preparing all sorts of mega data sets and mega spreadsheets. The sort of approach we take is John will select a bunch of councils that go into what the BBC call the key wards. It's about 810 wards this time. A bunch of councils up and down the country, and we basically throw everything at those statistically to try and figure out what's going on as the night is progressing, so that we can pick out some of the key stories in what's going on, sometimes gently prod various talking heads on air with evidence that perhaps what they're saying isn't quite in line with what the results are actually showing, and also just sort of flesh out the story for everybody. So there's a big sort of console that everybody working with the election has got in front of them that has a tab on it that is called Curtice Analysis. So that's where John writes up all of the stuff that we're finding in the data. He obviously pops up regularly himself on the TV as well, but even when he isn't, all the BBC correspondents who are working the show can see little stories popping up there that they can then hopefully make use of to, fill out their coverage and challenge their guests and stuff. I mean, it's tremendously good fun. Can't deny it.
And the most important question that our listeners will want to know, Rob, is what's the kind of sugar and snack strategy for that part? How much sugar did you mainline? What was your snack of choice to get you through the night?
I'm more partial to crisps than sugar, and I have to say the BBC are very good hosts in this regard. There are big trays of sandwiches, crisps, and various forms of sugary snacks that are refreshed on a distressingly regular basis. So if you wish to remain, there's no Haribo, I'm afraid, Sam. But I mean, apart from that, I think if you want to remain well topped up with carbs and sugary snacks, the BBC have got you covered.